Hello. Today's talk is cobbled together from three things that caught my eye recently. It's basically about how every generation thinks that the new, younger generation is worse and have an easier life than their own generation. You've possibly come across this sort of thing before from parents, teachers, and certainly in the media. The first thing to catch my eye was an online discussion about positive parenting and how it might not be such a great idea to raise children by this idea of positive reinforcement all of the time. The second was an online video where a guy called Sinek was talking about how millennials, those people who reached young adulthood at about the turn of the century, don't function well in workplaces because they have been let down by their parents being too positive. And the third was a 1970s comedy about an aging father and his adult son. In the comedy, the elderly father was complaining to his son that children in those days, meaning in the 1970s, were spoiled. They got everything they wanted when they wanted it, and how it wasn't like that when he was a boy. Now, I thought that this line could be said by any parent in any year, past or present or indeed future. I'm betting that no child has ever heard any older person say it's much more difficult for you and your generation than it was for me and my generation. Basically, these three sources were suggesting that each generation thinks younger people have it easy, and mostly because of an idea called instant gratification. As the elderly father in the comedy said, kids these days get what they want when they want it. The opposite of instant gratification is deferred gratification. The idea that you have to earn what you want and hence have to wait to get it. A quick example. Back when my parents were young, they wouldn't have dreamt of buying anything of high value on credit, either through credit cards or buy now, pay later schemes organised through the shop. They had to save money and then buy. They deferred their gratification. Nowadays, however, if I want to buy a new kitchen or something else of fairly high value, I can do it immediately. Buy now, pay later, all on credit. Instant gratification. Moving on then to Simon Sinek. Who is he and what did he have to say? Well, he's an author and a speaker on leadership and management issues. His book, which is called Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action, became very successful a few years ago as a go-to read for managers. He was speaking for about 15 minutes in an interview on this problem for millennials in relation to work and careers. Basically, he was saying the same as the aging father in the comedy, but he went into much more detail. So I'll summarise what he said for you. If you're a millennial that's born in or after 1984, Sinek thinks you're likely to be entitled, meaning that you think you deserve special treatment and privileges. Also, you may well be a little bit narcissistic, meaning having too much interest in yourself and particularly your physical appearance. Now, these two traits manifest themselves in millennials wanting jobs that have a good purpose, and they want to have a positive impact in the workplace. That's fine, that's great. But when these two requirements for jobs are not met immediately, the millennial employee becomes very unhappy very quickly. So again, we see this relationship to the idea of not gaining instant gratification. Sinek explains 4 reasons for this unhappiness. These are firstly poor parenting strategies. Second is technology. Third, impatience. And lastly, the environment. Now, they're all to a large extent interconnected. and are all related to this idea of needing instant gratification. So let's go through the first three. Firstly, poor parenting. When these young people were growing up, they were very often, I suppose victim might be the right word, the victims of positive parenting. They were told they can be whatever they want to be, do whatever they want to do. And they were rewarded for doing very little. For example, like a medal in a school sports day for taking part. Not a medal for winning, a medal just for taking part. In effect, losing in the race got you a medal, and that made you entitled, deserving of special treatment. Now, positive parenting strategies are very popular, but they have been criticised in academic literature. See, what's his name? Lazalia et al. In 2017 for one such study in the Marriage and Family Review Journal. You see, these children started to believe through their parents and the wider environment that they could have whatever they wanted. However, as soon as they start work, they quickly realise that they can't just get what they want. And this can come as something of a shock, and it can actually lower their self-esteem, which in turn can lead to depression. The second point Sinek mentions, technology, strongly supports what I've just said. Technology allows us to do things much more quickly. We get instant gratification. Whether that be research into a school or university project, just Google it. Even finding a date for a night out, just go onto Tinder and find somebody nearby who's also looking for a date. There's no need for the time-consuming palaver of saying hi to someone, making small talk, and finally plucking up the courage to ask that person out on a date. Also related to technology is social media. It allows us to only show the world our best sides, our achievements, our great nights out. We show our friends the us we want to be all of the time, not the us that's the reality. Life is often fairly mundane, fairly hard work. Now, when a status update or a photo is liked by friends, it makes us feel good. But when the status update doesn't get as many likes or responses as we'd hoped for, it can again lower self-esteem. People are thinking, oh, my friends don't care, they don't like me. And the next point is related to friends. Many friendships nowadays are quite superficial. They're not deep friendships, born of spending quality time together. And this lack of deep friendships and relationships leads to a certain extent, a lack of social skills. Something which is very necessary in most jobs these days. The third of Sinek's points is impatience. Well, I've already talked about that, this idea of instant gratification. You can watch any movie at any time you like, buy what you like, when you like. And Sinek's point was that job satisfaction and deep personal friendships cannot be instantly gratified. They need hard work over a long period of time. Very few people enter a company after university straight into a high-powered job. They start at the bottom, and because of that, they feel bad when they're not making an impact immediately. Their purpose is not quite being fulfilled. And all of this leads to this lower self-esteem and potentially unhappiness and depression. Now, I don't doubt that there's a lot of truth in what Simon Sinek says. For my part, I try not to give my kids instant gratification all the time. When we do karate, they certainly earn the new belt at each grading and the competition medals through their hard work. But you have to ask the question, how can each generation be getting worse than the previous one? And if that is the case, what on earth does the future hold? Well, I suppose that in life, it is getting easier to get the material things that people want. phones, tablets, clothes and such like. But young people face a whole new set of challenges that didn't exist when previous generations were growing up. So to say life is easier for each new generation is, to me at least, a little bit harsh. Some things are, but others are certainly not. Perhaps you have some thoughts about that yourself. Thank you.